Yes, probably. There's not a whole lot you can't do in Minecraft. A better question is, how? So I started by testing a few different ways to build these waves, with the first being completely made out of glass. I mostly use blue glass, but I also use some light blue and white to do the tops of the waves, and some black to do the darker portions. The second test I used only solid blocks. Going into this one I didn't really think this would look good, and I was right. The third and final test was a mix between the two, starting with some blocks where the darker parts of the wave are, and then building the rest out of glass so it still gives the water-like effect. Now that I've done a few tests, it's time to choose which one I like best. For starters, I think we can all agree on one thing. Now that that's dealt with, we need to choose between number 1 and number 2, and I personally think that number 2 is better, because although number 1 looks good, I feel like number 2 shows more definition between the waves, which will prevent the whole thing from just blending together, especially on a much larger scale. Now on to the actual build. I started by adding this little cliff and extending the beach so that there's more room for the waves. I also added a small sand castle and a few beach towels just for fun, before I finally got onto the waves. Just like I showed during testing, I started by laying out where I thought the waves would go using blue concrete. These blue blobs will act as the darker parts of the wave when it's covered in glass, which I promise will look a lot better than they do now. With that done, I can now start on the glass. I basically just went around to all this concrete and just placed a coat of blue glass over top and added lighter parts when necessary, like I did on this wave. But a lot of the smaller waves are just blue. If you ever want to do this on one of your own worlds, I would recommend building more waves than I did, so that it gives the effect that the waves go on forever, rather than just being in one area. However, doing it this way looks pretty cool too. At this point I started thinking what this process would actually be called. We use the word terraforming when building up land, and you can't use the same word for water, because terra literally means earth or land in Latin. The Latin word for water is aqua, so a possible name could be aquaforming, but there's also some other possible names such as waterforming, oceanscaping, or hydroforming. Let me know what you think it should be called in the comment section down below. With that part done, it's starting to actually look like waves, but it still doesn't look that great, so the next step is to connect them all together. At this point I was getting pretty tired of placing glass, so I thought I'd quickly change things up and build a lighthouse on the cliff that I built up at the beginning of the video. I then added a few custom trees, including this big spruce tree, a smaller one, and then an oak tree, and of course I'll add a bunch more off camera. Heading back to the water, I began to add the part that actually splashes up onto the shore. For me, this is the part of the project that created the wave effect the most, as it actually made it look like the waves go somewhere, rather than just stopping as soon as they touch the land. While doing this, I also went back and added a little more white into the other parts of the build as well, which I think made the whole thing look a lot better. Before the final reveal, there's one thing I need to add to make it look more realistic. That's right, plastic. Lots of plastic. Which is why after great success with Team Trees, Mr. Beast and Mark Rober teamed up again to create Team Seas, where every dollar donated to the link in the description equals one less pound of trash in the ocean. So if you were to donate $5, then that means 5 pounds of trash will be taken out of the ocean. Once again, the link to all that's in the description box down below. Thanks so much for watching. See you all in the next video.